The crowd burst into laughter the moment the biker's old motorcycle backfired loudly in the middle of the street. Smoke puffed out of the rusted exhaust, and the engine coughed like it was about to die. People turned to stare. Some covered their noses. Others pulled out their phones, recording the embarrassing moment. "Hey, buddy!" a teenager shouted. Did you steal that bike from a junkyard?" More laughter followed. The biker, a thin man in his early 30s named Jake Turner, kept his head down. His worn leather jacket had scratches and his boots were dusty from years of riding long distances. He didn't respond. Instead, he gently patted the fuel tank of his old motorcycle, whispering under his breath, "Come on, girl, just a little farther." But the engine suddenly died. Silence. Then more laughter. Jake stepped off the bike and began pushing it toward the sidewalk. A group of construction workers leaned against a fence, watching him struggle. One of them smirked. Maybe it's time to give up that dream, pal," the man said. Not everyone's meant to be a biker hero." Jake stopped pushing. For a moment, he looked like he might argue. But instead, he simply nodded. "You're probably right," he said quietly, and he continued walking. That afternoon, Jake pushed his broken motorcycle into a small repair shop on the edge of town. The mechanic, an older man named Tom, wiped grease from his hands and shook his head after inspecting the engine. Bad news," Tom said. "The engine's finished. Repairing it will cost more than the bike itself." Jake's shoulders dropped. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a few crumpled bills. It wasn't enough. Not even close. Jake looked around the shop. On the wall hung pictures of shiny motorcycles, racing trophies, and framed magazine covers. Once upon a time, Jake had dreamed of being there, featured on those walls. But life had taken a different turn. Tom sighed sympathetically. "You're a good rider, Jake," he said. "Dreams don't pay the bills." Jake forced a small smile. "I know," he replied. He turned and walked out of the shop, leaving his broken motorcycle behind. Outside, dark clouds gathered in the sky. Rain began to fall. Jake stood alone on the empty street, soaking wet with nowhere to go. That night, Jake sat in a tiny rented room above a convenience store. The ceiling leaked. The lights flickered. On the small table in front of him sat a stack of unpaid bills and a single photograph. It showed Jake as a teenager smiling proudly next to a handmade motorcycle he had built with his father. His father had believed in him. "Son," he used to say, "you don't need money to build something great. You just need heart." Jake picked up the photo, staring at it for a long time. Tears filled his eyes. Then slowly his expression changed. The sadness turned into determination. He wiped his face and stood up. "I'm not done yet," he whispered. That very night, Jake opened his old laptop and began work. He searched for engineering courses, mechanical design tutorials, and online competitions. He studied for hours, then days, then weeks. Jake took small jobs wherever he could, delivering packages, fixing bicycles, cleaning garages, saving every dollar he earned. He slept only a few hours each night. But he never gave up. One evening, months later, Jake stumbled across an online announcement. A global automotive company was hosting a design competition. The challenge: create a revolutionary supercar concept that combines speed, efficiency, and sustainability. The grand prize, $5 million and a contract to build the car. Jake's heart began to race. This was it, his chance. For the next 3 months, Jake worked harder than ever before. He sketched designs, built digital models, tested simulations, failed, started again, failed again. Started again. Many nights he fell asleep at his desk. But each morning he woke up and kept going. Finally, the deadline arrived. Jake submitted his design. Then he waited. Weeks passed. No email, no phone call, nothing. Jake began to lose hope. Maybe the town had been right. Maybe he was just a poor biker chasing an impossible dream. One rainy afternoon, he sat quietly in his room, staring out the window. Suddenly, his phone rang. Unknown number. Jake hesitated before answering. "Hello?" A calm voice spoke on the other end. "Is this Jake Turner?" "Oh, yes. This is the International Design Committee. We're calling to inform you that your concept has been selected as the winner." Jake froze. The world seemed to stop. I won?" he asked, barely able to speak. "Yes," the voice replied. "And we would like you to come to London next month to present your vehicle." Jake slowly sat down. Tears rolled down his face. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to smile. 6 months later, the town's annual festival filled the streets with music, food, and laughter. Families walked between colorful stalls. Children played games. Local vendors sold snacks and souvenirs. Everything seemed normal. Until a deep, powerful engine sound echoed through the town's square. Oh. Heads turned. People stopped talking. The sound grew louder. Then a sleek, futuristic supercar rolled slowly into view. Its body shimmered under the sunlight. Its design looked like something from the future. The crowd stared in shock. Whispers spread quickly. Who owns that car? It must belong to a celebrity. No one in this town can afford something like that. The car came to a smooth stop in the center of the square. Silence fell over the crowd. The driver's door opened, and out stepped Jake. He looked different now. Confident, calm, successful, but still humble. The same leather jacket rested on his shoulders, cleaned and repaired, yet familiar. The crowd gasped. The same teenagers who had laughed at him months ago stood frozen. The construction workers stared in disbelief. Even Tom, the mechanic, stepped forward slowly. Jake walked toward the center of the square. No anger, no pride, just quiet dignity. Tom spoke first. Jake, is that really you? Jake smiled. Yes, he replied. Tom looked at the car, then back at Jake. What happened? Jake placed his hand gently on the vehicle. I never stopped believing, he said. The crowd slowly began to clap. At first, just a few people. Then more. Soon, the entire town was applauding. Not for the car, not for the money, but for the man who refused to give up. The teenagers lowered their heads in embarrassment. One of them stepped forward. I'm sorry, he said quietly. We shouldn't have laughed at you. Ah, Jake nodded. It's okay, he replied. He looked around the town, the same streets where he had once been humiliated. Then he spoke one final sentence. I never judge someone by what they ride today, because tomorrow they might be driving their dreams. The crowd cheered louder than ever. And as the sun began to set, Jake climbed back into his $5 million supercar. The engine roared to life, but this time, no one laughed. They watched with respect, because the poor biker they once mocked had become a legend.